actually comes from a root word which means to tie something down and to hold on to it and to persevere. So when the scholars were asked, what is patience? How would you describe it? Imam Junayd, he says, it is to swallow bitterness without frowning. To swallow bitterness without frowning. And I mentioned this before. If you have medicine, a bitter medicine, right, some kind of syrup, even a cough syrup, when you swallow it, you're going to frown. You can't do it without frowning. But sabr is to do that without frowning, meaning it's to take the bitter conditions of life or the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we may not have called for, we may not enjoy, we may not like, but Allah has put us in that condition. He will test us with other people. He will test us with our rizq. He will test us with our family. He will test us with the environment, with other circumstances. In our lives there will be ups and downs. But to take that and to be patient without frowning, without complaining, without losing your self-control, this is sabr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions so many virtues of sabr in the Quran. So many things are based or conditioned upon sabr. First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us an instruction, an order to be patient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاصْبِرْ وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. He says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, be patient, but your patience will only be through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ. Also to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that wait and be patient and persevere for the command of your Lord. So it comes in the form of order, amr. We are, through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the rest of the believers, we are enjoined to have this patience. Another thing the Quran mentions, that success and prosperity is only achieved through sabr. This can be only, if you want true success in this dunya and in the next world, it can only come through sabr, through patience. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اصْبِرُوا وَصَابِرُوا وَرَابِطُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. O you who believe, have patience, persevere and endure and remain stationed and fear Allah that you may be successful. And all these words are closely linked. Isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu. Rabitu is to be stationed, as in battle. But rabt is also to tie something down. It comes from the same word, just like sabr. So it is to persevere, it is to stay where you are. It is, and this is the same meaning as psalm. Psalm is to become stationary. They used to say, they use the same word for when the sun becomes stationary in the midday, or when the wind is blowing and it suddenly drops, it becomes stationary. Or to stay silent. This is the meaning of psalm. Fasting is to stop doing something. So same as sabr. It is to tie yourself down in the face of adversity, in the face of challenges, in the face of tests and trials and tribulation, to be firm, to be still, and not to panic, not to complain, not to get frustrated. So this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, success and prosperity is dependent on you having sabr. And obviously we know the rewards of the patient ones, they will be multiplied. They will be doubled, increased and multiplied without any limits. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْتَوْنَ أَجْرَهُمْ مَرَّتَيْنِ بِمَا صَبَرُوا. Those are the ones who have been doubled their rewards. Their rewards will be doubled because of what they had patience on or what they persevered through. So because of patience, your rewards will be increased. They will be doubled. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. That those who are patient, they will be repaid their rewards. They will be paid their rewards بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ, without any limits, unlimited rewards. If you are patient, your reward is unlimited. And this is why in the hadith that says that the son of Adam has every action is for the son of Adam. So everything we do is for our own selves, except for fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the hadith through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that the fasting is for me and I should reward it. So the scholars explain the reason why the reward of fasting is not included in this calculation of between 10 to 700 rewards. It's much more than that. It's unlimited. We don't know the reward. It's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the reasons is because fasting itself is sabr. Because sabr is three things. One, it is to implement the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Two, it is to stay away from the prohibition, from the haram that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us and informed us about. And number three is to be patient with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be patient with His decisions. You wanted to get this job or career move. It didn't happen. This is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You lost something of your wealth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. Or a member of our family. Or something. We incur loss in something. That's the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to be patient. So these three things make up sabr. Implementing command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, staying away from the haram, and being satisfied with the qadr, with the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives. And all these three things are found in fasting in the month of Ramadan. They say because you're implementing the command, Allah commands us to fast, He commands us to stay away from certain things, food, drink and relations, and we accept the qadr. We may be fasting in very hot summer long days, or it may be very difficult circumstances, our work, our job, our family, or whatever. Your condition may be testing and it may be challenging for you to fast. So all these three things are found in fasting, and that's why fasting is rewarded without limits, just like sabr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, if you want leadership, Muslim Ummah, main thing we cry about is we've lost leadership in the world, we've lost leadership in our communities, we've lost leadership in our countries. The Muslims are always behind in everything. Other people are leading us. We are oppressed, we are weakened, all this injustice is being done against us. Muslims aren't in charge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ. That we made from amongst them leaders guiding by our command when they were patient and when they were certain of our signs. So two conditions for leadership, and it's referring to Bani Israel when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them leaders. Two conditions. One is certainty, yaqeen, to have full certainty in the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we think that the guidance that we have is not the best thing for human beings in this world and the next, if we don't think this and have full faith and certainty in the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the life that He wants us to live, if we don't have this, we will never gain leadership. And if we don't have patience, sabr, if we don't have patience, we will never ever gain leadership over our communities or over anybody else. So this is the condition laid down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even in leadership. And one of the greatest virtues in the Quran of sabr is companionship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. SubhanAllah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your companion, if He is with you, what else do we need?
Nothing.
We don't need anything else. No matter how weak you are, how oppressed you are, how low you think you are in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter how much injustice you see happening around you, no matter the condition of our communities, of our ummah, if Allah is with us, can anything be better than this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاصْبِرُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. This ma'iyah, this companionship with Allah, this togetherness, closeness, this protection and help coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After what? وَاصْبِرُوا. Have patience. Be patient, persevere, have self-control. It's not just be patient, lie in bed and don't do anything. Don't get the wrong impressions of patience. Sabr is dynamic. It means you take the means. You find yourself in a condition but you take the means, but you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you be patient. You don't do actions out of frustration. You don't do things which are not supposed to be done in their time, outside of their time. You take the means, you do your best, whatever's in your capacity. But you don't go beyond that. You don't go beyond what's in your capacity. You try your best, but then you have patience, like the Prophet ﷺ, his life in Makkah. This was a trial, tribulation of patience for 13 years. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there's a threefold reward for those who have patience. After mentioning that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will try you with some loss in your rizq and your produce and your nafs and everything. It says after that, الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. That after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He will surely test you with loss of these things, of something of your nafs, of something of your wealth, of your agriculture and business and produce. He then says, but those who give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere, who say when afflicted with calamity, to Allah we belong and to Him is our return. They are the ones on whom the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descend, the mercy descends, and they are the ones who receive guidance. These are three blessings for the ones who have patience. One of the Salaf said, why should I not practice patience when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised those who have patience 3 rewards, each one which is better than this world and everything in it.
Subhanallah.
Each of these rewards, if Allah's mercy descends on you, this is better than everything in this world, the whole world and everything in it. And then, and if Allah's blessings is descending on them, is that Allah blesses them, this is better than the world and everything in it. And if you receive guidance from Allah, if you become of those who are guided, this is better than the world and everything in it. 3 blessings for being patient. And this is when musibah hits us. And musibah comes from the word which means something that hit the target. And it even uses the word إِذَا أَصْوَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. When the thing that hits the target, which means that